Okay, we're back for the second half of the notes for 6D in the Math 4 course. And we had just finished doing the nuclear plants across the world or whatever, um, while it was still the Soviet Union. And now we're going to tackle the question on who is the greatest of all time, who is the GOAT of basketball. And the spreadsheet that we have been given that has all over that. Well, first of all, you're going to need all three of these links up and running that we're going to be dancing back and forth between them as we're doing this. But we're going to start with basketball stats. And no, I didn't want the whole little screen. I wanted just part of the screen. There we go. All right. Now, this is a fairly exhaustive listing of about 10 different players. Michael Jordan, of course, they didn't spell LeBron wrong, but anyway, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, and it goes on, through the years, both modern and old. They go all the way back to the 1950s in one case. And for each one, you have every season listed off to the left, and you have all the statistics, how many minutes they played in an average game, field goal percentages, three-pointers, free throws, assists, rebounds, steals. And at the very last column, they have how many points they scored in an average game for each of those seasons. That's interesting to notice the pattern with Michael Jordan, that by his third and fourth season was probably the peak of his scoring. Now, sometimes scoring is about who you're playing with too. If you're not playing with a whole lot of talent and you've got talent, then you're going to take it to the hoop. So, I'd have to go into that further, but these are conversations that you have when you're talking about the greatest of all time. But I will come back over here to the left side to notice that by the time that they get through with all of the different seasons, most of your players start off in the NBA when they're like 21, 22, and they'll play well into their 30s. At least, the greatest of all time kind of candidates would. Now, you'll notice that there is a summary of the 2 seasons that he played with Washington. There's a summary of the 13 season that he played with the Chicago Bulls. And then there's career. And so this career line is going to represent all of the averages put together as one career. And for having the conversation about the greatest of all time, I have a feeling that we need to, for the sake of brevity, stick with the career numbers and not try and figure out, okay, what was his peak season, and let's compare that to the peak season of LeBron or Kobe or whatever. Let's just look at career stats. We're going to keep this relatively simple and not try to get too overly complicated with this conversation. Now, the problem is that this spreadsheet has tabs at the bottom for each player. The problem is that CODAP will not accept that kind of setup. CODAP, you can import a spreadsheet into CODAP so long as it's one tab. But it's not going to take all of these different tabs and do the same thing that the spreadsheet is doing. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to take that one line that we want, that career set of statistics for Michael Jordan, and we're going to, if you've not heard about Control C and Control V, then you are in for an education today. If I want to copy something, I'll just press Control C. And you'll notice that a bunch of dotted lines have cropped up around it. That means that this thing is copied and is sitting in my clipboard on my laptop, my digital clipboard. And so, but understand that I didn't just click career, I clicked all the way over here in the margin. And so when I'm going to go paste over here, I thought I had cleared this out. Now, I'm going to do it on the second row because I need the first row for the titles, like, player and scoring average and that sort of thing. So I'm going to, you'll notice that I didn't do the first box. I did all the way over here so that the whole row is lit up. Now do Control C, and everything from Michael Jordan's career just pasted over onto this blank spreadsheet. Now, so I'm going to go up here and I'm going to say this is going to be what player, and I'm going to go all the way to the other end, and this is going to be the scoring average. All right, so those are our column titles. Now, we're going to run into a problem here because, I've got 10 different players and all of them are going to say career. So I'm going to have to go in here and I'm going to have to edit Michael Jordan so that I know who it is. Now, I'm thinking ahead because the next time I come back to this page, I'm going to want to go over here and go click on that and light up the whole row. So I'm going to leave it there when I'm done with it. And I'm going to click on basketball, and we're going to move on to LeBron. This is LeBron's page. There's his career. And so we're going to highlight 19. That's going to light up the whole column. Control C is going to copy this onto my clipboard, and I'm going to go over to my blank page, and I'm going to do, and I'm in the right spot for that, Control V, and it's going to paste in the career, and I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to change this to read LeBron James, all right? And so this is what we're going to do with all 10 of these players, is that we're just going to go back and forth. We're going to go to the basketball page, change to the next person, scroll down to where it says career, and highlight that entire row, Control C, copy. Come over here, on 4, Control V, paste. And we're going to have to change that to Magic Johnson. Okay, then I'm going to set up for the next one. Come back here, Larry Bird is next. There's his career, so I'm going to click on the 15. That's going to highlight the whole row, Control C, copy. Go over to the blank page, Control V, paste. Change career to Larry Bird. Click on the 6, set it up for next time. Come back here, and I'm going to scroll right. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is up next. All right, there's his career. He spent 14 seasons with the Lakers and then 6 seasons with Milwaukee. But we're going to click on 22 so we get that whole line. Control C, blank page, Control V. That was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Click on the 7. Back to the basketball page. Oscar Robinson was he was mainly in the 60s and early 70s. They had to have big players back then too, All right, so I click on his career and I come over here and click on that. Oscar Robinson. Click on 8, so I'm ready. Shaq is on that list. Career. Copy. Paste. Shaquille O'Neal. I'll click on 9, so I'm ready for the next one. And let's see, Kobe Bryant is up next. And I'll do that, career here. Paste. Kobe Bryant. Click on the 10. Back here, Wilt Chamberlain. From mostly the 60s and early 70s. And there's his career. Wilt the Stilt, they called him. And then Bill Russell was the last one. He played from the mid-50s up until the end of the 60s. There's his career. Copy. Paste. All right, so we've got our 10 players in place now. So we're ready to You know, we've got everybody on one page, which is what we need in order to be able to import over to CODAP. But I want to just take a quick look down here and make sure that our scoring average does what it was supposed to. It didn't. And what it turns out is that some of these players are so old that they had no three-pointers. There were, statistics that they just didn't keep back in those days because, the three-pointers, they didn't have them. And so I went back to each player and I verified that the 25-7 was actually the scoring average. It's just that he's missing a bunch of categories. So I'm going to copy and paste and put the 25-7 over here in this column so that when we import it to CODAP, I've got all my scoring averages in one column and all my players' names up front. Now, there are two at the bottom which are missing because they are missing even more data. And it turns out the 31 and the 15, if I copy them, I come down and drop it right there. I checked those two. Those are also their scoring averages. I mentioned the very last one, Bill Russell, was from the mid-50s and the 60s. And so, I guess you just didn't have your high flyers the way that you did in the 70s, because that 60s and 70s was when they started becoming these scoring machines. But anyway, all right. So we've got our data the way that we want it. Now we're ready to import it to CODAP. Now you can do this one of two ways. There are actually two different ways that you can do this. And I think I'm going to need to separate these two. There is CODAP. I'm going to try CODAP, but instead of opening a document, we're actually going to create a new one. There's not an existing document. We're going to make our own document here. So we're going to create a new document. Now I'm going to make this into a partial page for right now so that I can come back here to my blank thing and do that. So I've got kind of a split screen going on. I've got my blank spreadsheet going on the right, and I've got my CODAP going on the left, or left to right. I got it backwards. Anyway, you can do one of two things. You can either say file and where was it? Download. That's what it was. They moved download on me. All right. And I've mentioned this before that CSV is easier to import into CODAP especially. So we're going to download this as a comma separated value. And there's my file there. Now something interesting happens. I can take this and grab it and drag it. There I'm dragging it over to the middle of the CODAP page and I drop it. And there it is. There is all of my information all the way across to the scoring averages. Now, there's actually a second way that you can do this. The first way was to file, download, and do a CSV file, and then drag it over and drop it. There's actually a second way to do this. I'm going to get rid of that. The second way is that if you grab that box up there in the upper left of the spreadsheet, you'll notice that everything highlights. Grabbing that upper left box is going to make it to where all the values, all the cells are highlighted and ready to go wherever it is that you're going to do with it. Now I'm going to right click on that and I'm going to copy. Now what that just did was that just took everything highlighted and copied it onto my clipboard. And then, now that is all sitting on my clipboard, I can do a new table. And I can go here and I can import case data from Clipboard. it's sitting on my clipboard, so this time I'm going to import it. Do I want to replace the existing data set? Yes, because there's nothing really there. And there we are. There's our 10 players again. So that's actually two ways that you can do this. You can either do file download and download the file and then drag it and drop it to the middle of CodeApp, or let me get out of that. Or you can click that upper left-hand corner and right-click it and copy it. Copy it onto your clipboard and then come over here and do tables and do a new. And then once you've got that in there, the ruler will give you the option of importing case data from Clipboard. So either way, whichever way works for you is fine. Now, at this point, we have, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this. There. All right. So we've got our clipboard here. Now, we're still trying to answer the question, who is the greatest of all time? So we're going to grab a blank graph, open that up here. And, I used to play the back and forth of grab this, grab that. And then I discovered that there's this little upper left corner that if I click on that and switch to case card view, now I've got just category titles. And I can say, I want to take the players and put them all down on the x-axis. I'll stretch this out a little bit more breathing room there. And then I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of this where it says scoring average. And I'm going to drag that, grab it and drag it over here to the y-axis. You see how the y-axis lights up yellow? When you're trying to drag and drop something, it'll highlight yellow when it's ready to drop it on that axis. Now, those are some nice dots, but it almost looks like you would have like a bar graph going on here. Now, if you notice there, a bar for each point. There you go. That's more like it. And the fun part is that I can hover over any one of these and see what the average was. Now, I find this curious. Michael Jordan and Wilt Chamberlain both had the lead at 30.1 points per game across their entire career. So does that mean we have a tie for the greatest of all time? Well, I'm sure that in the continuing argument on who's the greatest of all time, you're going to look at different aspects, and sometimes it's more than just scoring. Sometimes it's the other things that they do on the team that makes them great. So, but this is one bit of information in that argument, is that, if we compare their scoring averages, it would seem that we have a tie between Wilt and Michael. Let's see now, LeBron came in second, or I guess technically third, with 27.1. Oscar Robinson had 25.7, and everybody else had 25 or less. So, Michael and Wilt do kind of stand out in that respect. Now, as far as screenshots, this would be the screenshot that you would want to take, to go as far as backing up your claim. And I guess this is as far as we go with this. There's not really much else that we can do with this, because when I do count, look at what happened. They're all ones. That's useless. When I do percent, they're all 10% because there are 10 players split, 100% split 10 ways is 10% each. So they're not counting the bars. They're counting, horizontally, not vertically. And that's not helpful. And even when I do something like the mean and the median, look, they all show up on the upper end of the bar. So, none of these are going to really help here. But I go down here. I don't want to group them into bins. I think we've had that conversation before, that grouping data into bins actually winds up making the data more obscure. With bins, you don't really know what the specific data points are. You just know a general interval that they occur in, and that is less helpful. So anyway, all right, so we'll leave it there. And that is going to be the end of your